Hello, folks, and welcome to the Daily Minute. It's Tuesday, so let's do a little bit of a walk around from conversations with my friends around the world at our tech center locations, give you some updates that hopefully you'll find interesting and useful. So first, let's start in India. A lot of travel restrictions have been removed and a little bit more free business flow happening there, so that's always good to hear about. One of the moves I mentioned earlier in a few weeks back seems to be progressing more, internalizing more of their defense manufacturing. You can imagine the geopolitical reasons why they're doing that, but also want to be more independent or self-dependent for building up their critical defense base, which is driving a lot of manufacturing needs and opportunities for folks in our industry. They're also incentivizing a lot more people in the electronics industry and core manufacturing through tax incentives to bring their manufacturing facilities and or production facilities into the country. So again, a lot of opportunities there. We'll keep you updated on those details. Mexico, 3 weeks plus with the COVID numbers coming down. Obviously a good trend for those guys. More openings in the restaurants, shops, etc. All very positive. As you see business and things moving forward, inflation's been able to be kept in check, 3.8%. So, really good from that standpoint. A lot of growth in investments because of nearshoring. So this whole idea of kind of people relooking at their supply chains, as we were just talking about a second ago, but the nearshoring effect of essentially being, near the U.S. market and leveraging kind of USMCA. A lot of investment happening is kind of creating an interesting real estate dynamic as people are bringing in kind of these industrial parks to be able to build out their manufacturing core there, but then also integrating it into residential and retail. So creating almost mini communities or mini cities that are focused on, core manufacturing that's going to be building out the need in Canada, the U.S., and then et cetera, as an additional support area for other markets. And that's further evidenced by the fact that China's one of the bigger investors actually doing that. So interesting to watch as they diversify their base out of China and leverage what's happening with USMCA here in Mexico. We go a little bit further south from there down to Brazil. COVID's still, it's a big issue there. The good news is that they have really large numbers of people that are recovering, and the amount of spread seems to be reducing, which is all very positive. Some of the big restrictions that have been in place for some time are really being removed, and work is starting to be a little bit more consistent from factory to factory, which is really helping drive the economy. July's PMI numbers were 58. Largely driven by a lot of growth in agriculture and construction, but really solid numbers there from a PMI standpoint. Europe, COVID, and talking to our guys there, are really becoming more of an ordinary news issue, as they say now. So it's become part of kind of just how people go about doing what they're doing. They modify behavior, but not having a major impact on actually driving what they're doing back into their economies. Industrial production was up in late July and also through early August, so positive movements in those markets. When we go over to China, it's really even a different issue. So it's getting to be COVID's not even in the news. So in Europe, it's kind of ordinary news at this point. China, it's not even in the news. Very few cases. The cases they have are pretty much saying they're from people who are not from in the country, who have come in to visit. And so pretty well contained. So their story is more about what's happening from an economic standpoint. One of the interesting things that they've just started doing is testing out digital currency. They're doing it in 4 different areas of China, starting out using digital currency for government workers' payroll, transportation costs, energy costs, just a few different areas. And it's kind of interesting to look at doing this. Obviously, some issues in the rural areas where cell phone usage is probably not as high and nor is coverage. So kind of doing things as a digital currency out there is a little bit more difficult. And people in general are somewhat concerned from a security standpoint, as you might imagine. So you do want to ask the question, well, then why, what's the need? What are they trying to drive to here? And really, the initial kind of thought points are, well, it speeds up transactions. Well, that makes some sense for convenience and not need to deal with paper money and dealing with coins and things. Okay, get a little bit of that. I think the bigger issue is digital traceability. And so really the government keep track of what's happening with all transactions down to the nearest RMB. Now, if you're trying to address crime issues, that could be extremely useful at the end of the day. If you're a little bit concerned about your personal security of your information and what you do, and having someone else understand what you buy, when you buy it, you might have some concerns about what's going on there. Now, the major platforms that they're actually pulling this off with are using Tencent and Alibaba that have the bigger digital payment systems, which has those guys maybe a little bit concerned as well, because if this gets to be a big issue, essentially those companies become more like the treasury. And if you're part of the treasury, you have a totally different relationship with the government. So it will be interesting to see how that all plays out. Another really interesting story going on in China and directly relative to us in manufacturing technology is the Greater Bay Strategy, what's going on in the Hong Kong, Macau, Guangdong province. And so if you look at, they're really trying to refocus that area into being perhaps kind of their terminology, like their Silicon Valley. You've got 70 million people in that area, yet it represents $1.6 trillion of their GDP. 37% of all of China's exports comes out of that area, 12% of the total GDP coming out of that area. So an advanced manufacturing focus, kind of linking those areas together, a lot of investment happening into that spot. If you look at it from the standpoint of overall, I mean, if you combine Thailand, Vietnam, and Singapore, this economic bloc is actually even bigger than that. So a lot of interesting possibilities when you're looking at where they're going to need manufacturing technology, driving a lot of industries in that area, as this gets to be a technology hub for them. But just one to watch. So that's the Greater Bay Strategy. So that's a few things real quickly. Just wanted to take around and update you on. It's a little bit past 4:07, so I'm done. Hopefully that helped, and we'll see you again on Thursday. Have a great one.